Hello, my name is Olivia, and today I'm going to be doing my January-February book recap. The reason I'm doing 2 months together, I simply forgot. I don't have any better explanation for you other than I just didn't do one in January, I didn't think to, and then I realized it would be kind of fun to do monthly recaps, so we're going to smush these two together, and then I'll hopefully remember to do one every month after this. So I don't really have anything else to say other than to just jump into it and tell you what I thought about the books, whether or not I recommend them. Obviously I won't spoil anything. I hope you enjoy this. Yeah, I really do. Okay, so I started off 2024, the first book that I finished was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. And I hate to say it, vaguely underwhelming start for the beginning of the year. This book, I read all three, so you'll hear my opinion on all three. This one was the most boring one, but it was not the worst one, to put it into perspective. This book, I read all 400 pages of this in one night. Like, I started it in the evening, I finished it before I went to bed. I don't really remember much other than a basic outline of this book. You get some pretty important background from this book, which is basically just that the most magical place on Earth, instead of Disneyland, it is called Dreamland. So Dreamland is the Disneyland equivalent, and there's a guy who's the Walt Disney equivalent, but I can't even remember his name. I just know that his last name is Kane, right? Is it Kane? I don't know. It doesn't matter. He has a son and 3 grandsons, and he has left them all an inheritance after he dies, which he does. And he has left, in his will, the most insane tasks for his 3 sons to carry out. All 4 of them have to complete their respective tasks before they can get their inheritance. It is, the concept of it is pretty goofy, but that's what's happening. And in this one, like, it's pretty boring. Like, his task is to just, like, work at Dreamland. He falls in love with an employee, and, like, I should have known going into this that a story about a bunch of billionaire dudes wouldn't really be much my thing, because they're all pretty bad people. They are billionaires. They're completely unself-aware. They treat their employees horribly. They are greedy. They are just morally corrupt. And this guy, dude, his name is Rowan, by the way, he learns the magic of basic ethics and human decency and decides maybe he should pay his employees livable wages, which it didn't hit the way that I think the author intended it to hit. Bars on the floor. Like, I'm not gonna clap for him meeting the expectation. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever. Book was kind of boring. 2 people meet, they fall in love, boring, moving on. Okay, so my next January book that I finished was Billy Summers by Stephen King. We all know I'm a Stephen King lover. I'm, like, working my way through his books. This book was released in 2018, and it's about an assassin named Billy Summers who is about to retire, but he decides to go on, like, one last assassination for a lot of money. The beginning of the book is a little bit boring, a little bit slow, because it's just him building a fake identity, just, like, prepping to do it. It's after the assassination that things get good and things get action-packed, and at the end, like, you're just, like, questioning, like, what is good, what is bad, what are morals? I don't know. I thought it was really entertaining, I thought it was really thrilling, and you become really emotionally attached to the characters, and it's really sweet and really sad, and I thought it was really well done. I've heard really good things about this book from other people too, so I think that my opinion is validated a little bit. So yeah, this is a really good book, Stephen. You did a good job. So then I read Throne of Glass, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I read Assassin's Blade first, and I did not know at the time that is not what Sarah J. Maas recommends, but I didn't know that, so I read Assassin's Blade first. I don't regret it. Personally, it's working out fine for me, so there's no going back. It already happened, so I'm, like, you know, not gonna worry about it. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail because I am making a video about Throne of Glass and about, like, me reading them, so I don't need to go into too much detail. This book was good. You know it's good. It's good. It's entertaining. We love it. You know, it's very simple, very straightforward. We don't have to go too much into it. We know that I like it. Okay. Well, how many stars did I give it? 4 out of 5 stars is what I decided was for this. So next I read Looking for Alaska by John Green, and I also want to apologize if the camera angle keeps changing. I'm not a professional, okay? Anyway, Looking for Alaska, John Green. This is the only John Green book I've ever read, and I know what his role is, what his tactic is. He makes you really sad. That is his goal, and he puts in a little life lesson, moral message in there, and it destroys the reader. that's what he does. I've never read the one about the dying girl. I've never read the Paper Towns one, but I know that they're sad, and this is no different. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it. It's really short too. It's not even long, but there's so much inside of it. It's just a story about a kid who goes to a boarding school and learns about life, and things happen, and he's growing up, and he has like kind of an existential crisis, and it's crazy. It's great. There's a girl named Alaska. That's what the title is. It's Looking for Alaska. It's a story about this was definitely my favorite book of January for sure. So we're back to the billionaires. This is the second book, Terms and Conditions, where we follow the eldest brother, Declan, who is somehow even worse than his brother, even less self-aware, even less morally inclined, even like he just doesn't care. This guy is mean. He is an abusive person, like genuinely, to everybody, to his workers, to the girl, to his brothers, to everyone. Like, he is a bad person, and I don't understand how this author thought that this could be justified. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get it. Also, his task, the task that his grandfather left him, is to get married and have a baby, to impregnate someone. That was his task. Are you kidding me? Why would you do that? That is a crazy thing to say. Hey, grandson, you have to impregnate a woman to get your inheritance, just so you know. What? And then he sucks, and this woman marries him, and it's like a fake marriage. So yeah, I don't like fake dating. Fake marriage, even worse. And he never gets better. In my professional opinion, this guy never gets better, but she forgives him and loves him anyway. This is just the epitome of what makes me furious in a romance novel. They do have good moments, I will admit, but it is so overridden by the underlying, really big issue. This guy's business practices, horrible. Oh my god, this guy's terrible. He's the worst by far, other than maybe their father, who is terrible, but Okay, so then I read Crown of Midnight, and I liked this book a lot more than Throne of Glass, and it is really exciting, especially towards the end, because it really is a catalyst for the rest of the story. This book changes everything. It's a really big deal. I really liked. This is honestly one of my favorites. For some reason, I just had so much fun reading it. I don't know why. Yeah, but I don't have to go into too much detail because I'm gonna have a whole nother video like going into all the details about all the things, so you don't gotta worry about that. Then I read The House Across the Lake, and nothing could have prepared me for what this book is. I've read Lock Every Door, and I've read The Only One Left. This was on a whole nother level, and not in a good way. Like, if there's one thing that I've learned about this author, is that he throws you like shocker after shocker. You literally do not get a break. Everything is crazy. Everything is absurd. And it's exciting, but it's also like really confusing and really sometimes over the top, like in this book, which was like at the beginning, it was suspenseful, it was mysterious, it was interesting, and it could have never possibly gone where I ever would have thought it would go. And obviously I can't spoil anything, but like just know this is insane, and I don't even know what to think about it. It's just, I rated it 3 stars, which, you know what, fair enough. It was very excitable, but it was also weird. It was weird. It was very weird. Okay, we've reached the final Dreamland Billionaires book. Final offer. This is the book that I liked. This is the book that I thought was good. This is the one I would recommend to people. And fun fact, you don't have to read these books in any particular order. They don't really connect in any significant way, so you could read any of them in any order or as standalones, and it would be fine. So if you only want to read the book that I recommend, you can, and you don't have to worry about the other two, because this book it's about this Cal, and he's the middle brother, and he doesn't really care about the whole Dreamland thing. He's not involved in the company. He's very, he's complicit in what his, family does, but at the same time, he just doesn't really care. He's just not really involved. He just exists. This is a second chance romance, which I found I actually kind of like. It's just nice to see the two characters revisit their past and rebuild their relationship, and I think it can be really, really beautiful, and I felt that way about this. Cal struggles with addiction, and it is like a good plot. It's like a good character arc. It is a struggle that he has to overcome for his future, for the woman he loves, for himself. It is so good. And Alana, his ex-lover, is incredible. I like her. She is so strong and determined and great. I couldn't believe that this was a part of the same series. Like, in my opinion, this is just like, this was so different. Like, the experience, the plot, the setting, so much of it was so different and so outside of the world that the other two books were in. I enjoyed it very deeply. I would highly recommend it, opposed to the other books. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars, which honestly, that tracks. That's kind of how I feel about this. It's slightly above average, but it's not like it's obviously not like the world's best. I think the reason I liked it so much is because I didn't like the other two so much, that this just really stood out to me in contrast. So next, I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. We're still in January, by the way. I read 13 books in January, which is way more than I would usually read. Anyway, The Housemaid, Frida McFadden. I read Never Lie first, and I didn't particularly love it. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't like the plot twist that much. This one, I see why it has a sequel now. This is, it is scary in the weirdest way, and this book just lived in my head for days, and just like the way it made me feel. And there is some like social commentary in here that I can't, like I said, I can't explain it, and it is so intense. And I would almost go to say that this is like a very woman's thriller. Like, this is a horror for women. Like, I feel it, I can't explain it. I can't explain it because I don't want to spoil it, but like, it's very, very hard hitting, and by the end, I was just like freaking out. And a book that can like live within your soul for so long after reading it is always just iconic. Like, that's a sign that it's a good book. If it like literally, I just can't get rid of it. So this book is really good. This book is really good. Really, really good. What do we have next? Heir of Fire. I didn't like this book as much as honestly any of the books so far, and I do not have the words to explain to you why. There is really no rhyme or reason for it. I mean, it definitely is a very good build up. There's a lot of like anticipation happening. Well, big things do happen, but not like, no, big things do happen. I don't know what's wrong with me. This book is really good. Heir of Fire is such a good title for it. You really see a lot of these characters learning things and like coming into themselves and developing and kind of leaning towards what their future is going to look like, and that's really cool. Okay, and so finally I read Gild, Glint, and Gleam by Raven Kennedy, all on Kindle, so I don't have the physical copies, but my last video was a video about reading Gild because I got it recommended off of a TikTok filter. So that's how I came to this situation, and I'm not gonna say that they're like great, but they're very entertaining. I was very interested, and I read all of the books, and I have pre-ordered the one that is coming out in August. So I'm excited to see what happens. There was a very big cliffhanger. Anyway, it's like a retelling of the story of Midas, and I honestly think it was really creative. Like, the way that she used this story of Midas, this really famous myth, to display abuse and those cycles of abuse and trauma bonds, and the way that somebody can put you down so much and make you feel so dependent on them that they can use you and can just take advantage of you and of your life. And it kind of honestly hit me a lot harder in that way than I could have ever expected. It's about a girl named Orin who is made of gold, and Midas keeps her in a cage. He's a king, and he keeps her in a cage and displays her for the world to see, and is like, look how powerful I am, I have a golden woman. So those 3 books are how I finished January. So that's all of January. Now we can do February. And in February I read Glow and Gold. You know, same series, same kind of summary, like nothing too new. And then I read, oh my god, this is a really big deal to me, okay? This was my February favorite book, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. This book, I could go on and on and on, but I won't because that would take way too much time. But this is it's technically fiction, but it is so strongly inspired by Betty Smith's real life. I find that really mysterious because you don't know what parts of this are directly stories from her actual life and what parts are completely fictionalized, which I just thought that was interesting while reading. But this is a story about growing up. This is a story about childhood to, you know, like kind of like teenage or young adult, and the ending just like, oh my gosh, it's really, really beautiful, and it's very relatable. I think like for a lot of like young girls, the emphasis on class and classism is very, very impactful, very striking, very so good, so good. Oh my gosh, this book, it was very, very like but truly this has made me so, it's not like sadness in and of it's sadness, it's happiness, it's confusion, it's anger, it's everything. This book has everything. I want to read you just like the beginning of the foreword written by Anna Quindlen that I think describes it in a really, really nice way. It says, "A Tree Grows in Brooklyn illustrates the limitations of plot description. In its nearly 500 pages, nothing much happens. Of course, that's not really accurate. Everything that can happen in life happens, from birth and death to marriage and bigamy, but those things happen in the slow, sure, meandering way that they happen in the slow, sure, meandering river of real existence." Yep. Betty Smith is very witty. Like, she has just a nice way of explaining these events and explaining the way that her childhood mind was understanding and perceiving all of these things in her life, and I thought it was really cool. Like, it's very cool to read. It's very, very well written, and it's in a way that makes you want to keep reading. It makes you want to keep turning the pages, even though, like it said, there's no real, like, specific, like, huge plot points, huge, like, events. There's just life, and she keeps you curious through all of it, and I think that's so cool, and shows a lot of talent for sure, and literally one of my favorite books ever now. Then now we have Queen of Shadows, which I finished afterwards. This had a lot of really good character development. I enjoyed it a lot. It was just really good, you know? Like I said, I loved the character development, and it's exciting to see what's gonna happen, and I don't want to give too much away. The further you get, the harder it is to explain what's happening, because there's so much from before that you have to understand, and after, then you know what I mean. This book is really good. Also one of my favorites of the series so far. After that, I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I loved Babel, however you say it. I really liked that book, and this book was very, very different, but I still liked it. I'd heard mixed reviews about it. It didn't seem like anybody had like a for sure, like, it's good or bad. It just seemed like really kind of ambiguous, and I liked it, but not in the way that I thought I was gonna like it. It's kind of like a little bit of like a thriller. Like, it kind of, there's a lot of suspense and just like there's just so much happening, and it's hard to comprehend. In this book, the main character is a white author named Juniper, and Juniper has a friend named Athena who's Asian, and she has this manuscript about the Chinese role in World War I. And Athena dies, and girl steals the manuscript and like edits it and finishes it and publishes it as her own. Crazy. It's very much so about like book culture and like the publishing world, which I thought was really, really interesting, because I've never really, sorry if the lighting sucks, I've never really read a book that like describes it like that, and I feel like I learned a lot. I mean, there's so much, and I feel like there's no real particular answers about a lot of the questions that this book proposes, which I think is kind of part of the thrill of it, is the fact that you don't really know, like, do we side with Juniper? No? Yes? Like, what do we think? What do we think about all of the like moral questions that this raises? And there's a lot of different disagreements about, you know, who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Was Athena a good person? Is Juniper a good person? Who's good, who's bad, who's wrong, who's right? About everything that happens. Literally everybody in this book just brings up different opinions about everything, especially the role of Twitter and social media, or X, whatever. The book world apparently is a lot more like tough than I thought, and a lot more intense and harsh. I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would, to be honest. I ate it up. It's pretty good. I'd recommend it for sure. And then we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book, overrated. I heard so many great things about this book. I thought it was gonna like change my life. It's good. It's fun. It's entertaining, but it was like not as crazy impactful as I thought it was going to be. It was really fun. I'm going to read the next book. The cliffhanger was crazy. It's great. It's about a girl who doesn't have magic in a world where, you know, they hate all the people without magic, and she pretends to have magic by being really insanely good at reading minds, which kind of annoys me because it's so improbable. Like, she might as well actually be a mind reader with how good she is. She never fails. Never once does she mess up reading somebody's mind just by looking at them, just by listening to them. Like, that's absolutely so unrealistic, and it really annoyed me. That's really the only part that like bugged me. Oh, and also there were certain points where I felt like the dialogue was kind of cringy and kind of annoyed me, but I also run into that feeling a lot during romance plots, so I think at this point that might just be a me thing, but there's some of that in this book, but you know, whatever. I read it for funsies, it gave me funsies, it did its job. And I am excited to read the next book and see what's gonna happen, for sure. Like, without a doubt, I'm getting that book this summer, so. And finally, last but not least, just yesterday, I finished my tandem read of Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. Oh my god. Because I just finished these yesterday, they're still so fresh in my heart, and I loved doing the tandem read, by the way. I was a little intimidated by it, but it was so fun. I thought it was so fun. Where's my little paper? Here it is. Yeah, it took me like 2 weeks to do. I had a great time. Oh, these books. I really loved them both. This is some of the most fun I've had with this series so far. It blew me away. It was fun. It was great. It was incredible. Once again, there's more in-depthness in my like video that you know what I'm saying, okay? But this was the end of February. This is what I just finished literally last night. I also did finally buy Kingdom of Ash, and I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't know what's gonna happen in here. I don't know if I'm gonna survive it. Like, I'm scared. I am frightened, but I'm excited. But I'm so scared. I don't know what's gonna happen. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, that's the end. That is everything that I read in January and February. January was 13 books. That's so many. And February was 8. I don't know what March is going to be yet. We'll see how it happens as it happens. I think this guy's going to take me a sec, but I don't know. If it's really entertaining, you never know. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did. Some of those books were really good, and I hope that you take my recommendation and read them, because some of them are really incredible, and I loved them. So, goodbye. Have a good night.